The city pressed in on Kichy. Crowds swarmed, noises blared, customers snapped. Every day felt like a battle against exhaustion.
There has to be more to life than this. Kichy scrolled through images on her phone. Mountains, forests, lakes, images of tranquility. Her eyes fell on a picture of a lush forest in Pennsylvania. Kichy booked a cabin, packed her bag, and left the city behind.
The highway stretched before her, a ribbon of asphalt leading to freedom. Kichy rolled down the windows, letting the wind whip through her hair. The city noises faded into the distance, replaced by the soft hum of tires on pavement. With each passing mile, the tension in her shoulders eased. The closer she got to her destination, the more the landscape changed. Buildings gave way to fields. The air grew fresher, cleaner.
This is what I need. This is my escape. Finally, after hours on the road, Kichy arrived at the cabin.
The forest welcomed Kichy with open arms. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. Bird song filled the air, a symphony of nature's music.
This is it. This is the peace I've been craving. She set off down one of the trails, eager to lose herself in the beauty of the woods. She felt a sense of wonder she hadn't experienced in years.
As Kichy wandered deeper into the forest, her worries seemed to vanish completely. She was captivated by the beauty around her, her senses alive with the sights and sounds of nature, but her tranquility was soon shattered. She had been so caught up in the scenery that she hadn't been paying attention to the trail. Panic surged through her as she realized she was lost. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows that danced and twisted.
Oh no, I can't be lost. Not now. Kichy stumbled onward, desperate to find her way back to the main path. She took a deep breath and stepped under the tree's dark canopy. Kichy stepped under the tree's archway. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. But then she saw them. Butterflies. Hundreds of them, perhaps thousands. They fluttered around her, a kaleidoscope of color against the darkening woods. Kichy had never seen anything like it. The butterflies seemed to beckon her forward, leading her deeper into the woods. Kichy followed the swirling cloud of butterflies, their delicate wings brushing against her skin as they danced around her. The forest grew denser, the trees pressing in on all sides, their branches intertwining overhead to form a leafy tunnel. She was lost, utterly and completely lost. But strangely, she no longer felt afraid. The butterflies seemed to offer a sense of comfort, of guidance, even in this darkening, unknown place. The last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long, eerie shadows. As Kichy walked, she noticed a change in the butterflies. Their colors, once so vibrant, began to fade, their wings taking on a dull, almost translucent quality. She shivered, a sense of unease settling over her. Then she saw it. Looming ahead, in the heart of the darkening woods, stood a tree unlike any she had ever seen before. Its bark was black as night, gnarled and twisted, as if frozen in a silent scream. The butterflies, now a swirling vortex of pale, ghostly wings, circled the tree's base.
Kichy stopped, her heart pounding in her chest. The tree emanated an aura of power, of ancient malice that sent shivers down her spine.
As I drew closer, I noticed a gap in the tree's trunk, a jagged opening that seemed to have been torn open by some unseen force. The butterflies swirled around this opening, their movements becoming even more frantic.
Kichy hesitated, her hand trembling as she reached out to touch the tree's rough bark. It was icy cold, sending a jolt of fear through her body. She pulled her hand back, her heart pounding in her chest. But it was too late. The butterflies surged forward, enveloping Kichy in a whirlwind of ghostly wings. Kichy stumbled forward, blinded by the swirling butterflies and her own fear. She felt a strange tingling sensation, a feeling of weightlessness, as if her body were dissolving into the swarm of ghostly wings. Then everything went black.
When I opened my eyes, the butterflies were gone. I was surrounded by trees, just like before, but these trees were different. Their bark was a sickly grey, their branches twisted and gnarled, reaching out like skeletal fingers.
Panic clawed at Kichy's throat. Where was she? How had she gotten here? The forest seemed to press in on her, the silence amplifying her fear.
I called out, my voice a thin, reedy sound that was swallowed by the oppressive stillness.
She stumbled forward, her foot sinking into the thick mud with a sickening, sucking sound. The air grew colder, the temperature dropping with each step she took. She pulled her jacket tighter around herself, but it did little to ward off the growing chill. Every instinct screamed at Kichy to run, to flee this place while she still could. But her legs felt like lead, her body heavy with a growing sense of dread. She had stumbled into something ancient, something evil. She could feel it in her bones. The silence was broken by a low growl, a guttural sound that seemed to come from the very depths of the forest. Kichy froze, her heart pounding against her ribs. Terror lent speed to Kichy's steps. She ran blindly, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for respite. Branches whipped at her face, tearing at her clothes, but she didn't dare slow down. Not now, not when death itself stalked her heels. The footsteps grew louder, closer, the sound of pursuit echoing through the silent trees.
I can't stop.
Kichy risked a glance over her shoulder. Kichy pushed herself to her feet, ignoring the searing pain in her ankle. She had to keep moving, had to put as much distance between herself and the creature as possible, but the forest seemed to conspire against her, the trees closing in, the mud sucking at her feet, trying to drag her down. The creature roared, a deafening sound that reverberated through the trees, shaking the very ground beneath her feet. It was close now, too close. Kichy could smell its fetid breath, could feel the heat of its body radiating through the trees.
Don't look back, just keep running.
She didn't dare look back. The creature's heavy breathing filled the air, each rasping breath a reminder of Kichy's impending doom. The stench of rot and decay intensified, clinging to the back of her throat like a physical presence.
My legs burned, my chest ached, but I couldn't slow down. Not now, not when the creature was so close.
The darkness itself seemed to writhe and pulse around her, a physical manifestation of her terror. The trees, their branches twisted into grotesque shapes, reached out like grasping claws, eager to ensnare her. The air grew thick with a palpable sense of dread, pressing down on her with the weight of 1,000 nightmares. Kichy stumbled over gnarled roots and fallen branches, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The forest floor seemed to shift and buckle beneath her feet, the ground uneven, treacherous.
The trees, their bark slick with moisture, offered no handholds, their branches whipping at my face, their thorns tearing at my clothes. The air grew colder, the temperature plummeting, as if I were descending into the bowels of the earth.
The darkness deepened, becoming a suffocating presence that pressed in on her from all sides. She could see nothing, could only rely on her other senses to guide her through this nightmare realm. The creature roared, a deafening sound that seemed to split the night itself. Kichy scrambled to her feet, ignoring the searing pain in her ankle, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drum.
I had to keep moving, had to find a way out of this labyrinthine forest before it was too late. But the forest offered no escape.
The trees pressed in on her, their branches intertwining overhead to form a suffocating canopy that blocked out even the faintest glimmer of moonlight. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and something else, something alien and foul, something that spoke of ancient evils and unspeakable horrors.
My breath hitched in my throat as I realized the truth. I was trapped. This forest, this dark and twisted realm, was no ordinary place. It was a hunting ground, a place where nightmares roamed free and where escape was nothing more than a cruel illusion.
Section 4, A Glimmer of Hope.
Then, through the darkness, I saw it, a faint glimmer of light, like a beacon of hope in the suffocating blackness. It was water, I realized, the moonlight reflecting off its surface, a river, or perhaps a stream. And where there was water, there was a chance, however slim, of escape.
With renewed determination, Kichy stumbled towards the light, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for respite. She could hear the creature behind her, its heavy footsteps pounding the earth like thunder, its enraged roars echoing through the trees. But she refused to give up, not yet, not when freedom was within reach.
The ground sloped downwards, the trees thinning slightly as I approached the water's edge. The air was filled with the roar of rushing water, a deafening symphony of sound that drowned out the creature's pursuit, if only for a moment. I didn't hesitate. I couldn't. It was my only chance.
Section 5, Across the Abyss?
The bank dropped away sharply, the water a churning torrent. The creature's roars were getting closer. I took a deep breath and jumped.
The icy water slammed into her, stealing her breath. She struggled against the current.
But I was a fighter. With a final, desperate lunge, I reached the opposite bank.
Section 1, Gasping for Air.
I lay on the muddy bank, my chest heaving, my clothes soaked through. Each breath was a victory, a testament to my survival. The cold air stung my lungs, but I welcomed the pain. I had escaped for now, but the forest held its breath. The roar of the rushing water filled my ears. The darkness was absolute, the moon hidden behind leaves.
Eyes in the darkness. Kichy, S1. Kichy crawled on all fours, dragging herself further up the bank, away from the treacherous water. She found a fallen log, its bark rough against her palms, and used it to pull herself to her feet. She swayed for a moment, light-headed, her vision blurring at the edges. She took a deep breath, willing herself to stay upright. She had to see, had to know if the creature had followed her. Cautiously, Kichy turned back to face the water. The rushing current gleamed in the faint moonlight, a silver ribbon cutting through the heart of the darkness. The opposite bank was a wall of impenetrable blackness, the trees like silent sentinels guarding the secrets of the forest. Kichy, S1. And then she saw them, 2 points of light glowing like embers in the darkness, eyes watching her. The creature hadn't followed, not yet, but it was waiting, watching, judging. A vow of return, Kichy S1. A primal fear, colder than the icy water, colder than the night air, gripped Kichy's heart. She knew with a certainty that defied logic that the creature would never truly let her go. She had stumbled into its domain, had seen its true face, and now it would forever haunt her steps. But Kichy refused to be its victim. She would not live in fear. She would learn from this experience, would find a way to fight back. She would return to this forest, but not alone. She would bring others, people who understood the darkness, people who wouldn't hesitate to confront the nightmares that lurked within its depths. Kichy, S1. Kichy turned away from the water, away from the creature's watchful gaze. She would not give it the satisfaction of seeing her fear. She would walk out of this forest, bruised but unbroken, and she would return, armed with knowledge and courage, to face the darkness once more. Never alone again. Kichy, S1. Kichy stumbled through the forest, her every instinct screaming at her to run, to flee this place of nightmares. But she forced herself to move at a steady pace, conserving her strength, her mind racing ahead, plotting her next move. She would find her way back. She Had to. She wouldn't let this defeat her. The forest seemed to stretch on forever, the trees closing in around her, their branches reaching out like grasping claws. The darkness was absolute, the silence broken only by the sound of her own ragged breathing and the pounding of her heart. But with each step, a new resolve grew within her. Kichy, S1. She would never forget this night, would never forget the terror that had gripped her, the feeling of utter helplessness as the creature hunted her through the darkness. But she would also never forget the strength she had found within herself, the will to survive, the refusal to be broken. Section 5. The hunt will continue.
I emerged from the forest's edge, dawn painting the sky. I had escaped the nightmare realm. The experience had changed me. The forest's dark silhouette reminded me of the horrors. The creature is still out there, waiting. But I am no longer afraid. I had stared into the abyss, and it had blinked.
Kichy had a story of survival and courage. She would warn others, ensuring no one faced the horrors alone. The hunt was over, but the fight had just begun. Section 1. Scars and Whispers.
The warmth of the rising sun did little to chase away the chill that had settled deep in my bones. It was the chill of true fear, leaving an invisible scar on my soul. The whispers of the darkness would linger. The glowing eyes watching from the shadows would haunt her dreams. I tried to share my story, to warn others about the dangers beyond the city limits, but my words felt hollow, unable to convey the terror of that night. People listened politely, their eyes glazing over. They saw me, but they didn't see me. They heard my words, but couldn't hear my screams. They lived in a world of concrete and steel, illuminated by streetlights. They had never known true darkness, the primal fear of being hunted. They dismissed my story as a bad dream, but I knew the truth. The creature was real, and it was out there, waiting for its next victim. I had escaped once, but it wasn't finished with me.
The thought of others enduring the same terror, the same helplessness was unbearable. Kichy knew she couldn't remain silent. She had to do something, had to find a way to fight back, to protect others from the fate that had nearly consumed her. Driven by a newfound purpose, Kichy immersed herself in research, scouring old books, obscure websites, anything that could shed light on the creature, on the nature of the forest, on the secrets that lay hidden in the shadows.
I sought out others who claimed to have encountered the unknown, who spoke of creatures lurking in the darkness, of places where reality itself seemed to unravel. I learned of ancient legends, of forgotten rituals, of a darkness that predated humanity, a darkness that whispered from the primordial depths, its hunger insatiable, its power absolute. And I knew, with a growing sense of dread, that I had stumbled upon something ancient, something evil, something that should have remained buried.
Kichy wouldn't be a victim. She would be a warrior. She would arm herself with knowledge, with courage, with the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of nights, a single spark of defiance could ignite a fire that would banish the shadows.
I practiced with my grandfather's old hunting rifle, the weight of it both comforting and unsettling. I honed my senses, learning to navigate by moonlight, to trust my instincts, to anticipate the unknown.
She assembled a team, a small group of trusted friends, their faces grim but determined, their eyes reflecting the same fire that burned within her own heart.
We'll return to the forest, but this time we'll be ready.
We'll be armed.
And we won't rest until we face the darkness, until we've exposed its secrets, until we've ensured that no one else will ever have to endure the terror of that night.
The forest awaited. Kichy could feel its presence, a dark stain on the edge of her awareness. It called to her, whispered promises of revenge, of oblivion. But she would not be swayed, she would not be broken.
I would meet its challenge head-on, would stare into its abyss and laugh. This is not the end, it's just the beginning. The hunt is far from over.
A shiver ran down her spine, but it wasn't fear, it was anticipation, the thrill of the hunt. The knowledge that she was about to confront something truly monstrous, something that would test the very limits of her strength, her courage, her humanity. And she wouldn't have it any other way. The forest held its breath, waiting.
"See you in the shadows," she whispered, her voice a low growl that echoed through the trees. "The hunt is on. And if you want to see how this all ends, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel.